what have you done to kind of also showcase it in Mali? Like, have you taken it back into Mali and into Africa and kind of, because I think one of the great things about this is it really showcases to us here what's going on and kind of what the impact is, but a lot of the times actually people who are there don't realise that bigger picture. So kind of what are you doing to also promote that side of the film? Because I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. So we worked with a group called Afrodocs in America last year, which is a documentary slot on African TV. They actually go out in 49 different countries all on the same evening. So that went out kind of about 6 months ago now, which is great because it kind of means it's broadcast kind of across a lot of the continent. And then in terms of Mali, kind of Andy can speak to this a bit more, but the atmosphere on the ground is still very dangerous to tour it around. So we've been desperate to take it back from like the second we finished the film. That was the first thing that we were thinking about. But we have to make sure that we have the safety of the characters in mind, which actually probably Andy can talk a little bit more to in terms of really going to say what's on the ground at the moment in Mali, like what's happening and why we haven't gone back really at this point.
So, I mean, there is this festival in Amsterdam that's proposing to fund some screenings of the film in Mali, especially outside Bamako. And I saw Disco 2 weeks ago in Morocco, and I talked about it, and she said, I'm not ready for that, you know, the situation's too dangerous, I don't want my face to be out on the big screen associated with that. And I've had a similar point of view coming from some of the Songoi Blues people as well. So that's exactly what we were talking about while the film was being screened, was how to do that without you know, putting any of them in any kind of danger, which is just would be so counterproductive, you know. So yeah, so we would. There's the French Cultural Centre where a lot of things happen in Bamako. We might do a screening there, but otherwise in the rest of the country, I think it's more maybe a question of just showing little bits of the film that aren't so kind of maybe controversial, and but then around that, letting that stimulate a debate, especially I feel around womanhood and music, because the thing that the film conveys, but maybe subliminally, is that a lot of traditional music is a woman's preserve in northern Mali. It's something that women, especially in Tuareg society, for instance, it's the women who basically are the cultural, you know, the people who preserve culture and who teach it to new generations, and who play music. You know, traditional music is very few roles for men in traditional music. It's mostly women, you know, and so a suppression of music is in a way a suppression of femininity as well, very much, and it goes for all the other way. The women are repressed under this Salafist mindset, this very puritanical mindset which comes from Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, you know. So I think that's a very worthwhile issue, and it's certainly an issue that a lot of Malian women are talking about. So we're thinking maybe of doing something around that and showing parts of the film with that. So that's just an idea, you know, it might happen, might not happen.
Just something I'll mention in passing before going to the next question is something that you passed by there, referring to Salafist Saudi Arabian Islam. Is that Mali has got its own particular variety and form of Islam, and it's well, it's one of the richest countries in Africa for music. So you can see that there's a big difference between that and the Salafist approach.
Okay, is that working?
Yes.
Okay. I'd love to know a bit more about the details of the funding of this film, because clearly you didn't know, presumably when you started, that you were going to get such wonderful outcomes to lots of your stories. So how do you, persuade your funders at that early stage that they're going to get a great narrative? And also in relation to the safety of the artist, because I noticed you presumably did Kickstarter, crowdfunding, lots of people's names at the end. Now, often when you do that, you have to sort of say up front or give a little taste up front of what the film is going to reveal. So presumably, again, names of the Hyra and Disco and people may have had to be revealed. So that could be very interesting to hear about.
Yeah, sure. So the funding for a feature documentary is never a fun task. So it's very uncommon these days when you're doing a feature to have kind of all of the money up front for the whole of the production. So it's normally in kind of stages, and that matches then kind of how you film the project. So with this, kind of you have to go back every couple of months and get the update to the story. So we had an initial small grant from the Hartley Film Foundation, which is a fund that their mission is really to kind of like put out kind of what's the current conversation around religion today. So that can be positive stories, that can be negative stories, that can be questioning stories, but it's just really like what effect does religion have on society? And this quite clearly was kind of a very interesting route into what is religion kind of in Mali today through the eyes of music and the musicians involved. We then did a Kickstarter campaign, which, so as well as Johanna being 8 months pregnant, she gave birth during the Kickstarter campaign. We would literally post out like, I'm not going to give birth until someone gives me more money. But Kickstarter is a really great way for people who don't kind of know how it works, but you basically ask kind of friends and family and extended friends and family to contribute kind of £10, and for that you can have your name on the credits, which is always fun for people. But it's a really good way of kind of assessing who are your kind of community and fans, and because there's so many Mali music fans around the world, it was a really great kind of thing to do at that time. And the kind of pitch video that we used for that was mainly Johanna just talking to camera that she filmed in Mali, just saying, I'm here in Mali, this is what I'm trying to make, will you support us? And then using some incredible footage. So the Gao kind of war scenes that we have were from a Vice journalist who was embedded on the front line. So Johanna being pregnant at the time, she couldn't kind of go and get that, and that was filmed a few months before. So it was kind of intercut with lots of different things. So the element of kind of the characters being in the film, they're very proud to be in the film. It's just the element of sometimes when you see yourself intercut into everybody else's narrative, it's very different to just knowing what you said at the time, and it's that idea of kind of their pride of being in it, but the safety now of kind of what it looks like when you watch the whole thing in some kind of sequence in country is very different. And then at the latter stage we got funding from the Influence Film Foundation, who support film work that will again kind of influence and challenge kind of the audience to think about an issue in a different way. And then the BBC came in on the very last, the last logo, to help us out. And they actually came on board at the first festival that we premiered in, so kind of do the final amount there.
Does that mean it's going to be shown on the BBC?
That is the plan, yes. So it's BBC Worldwide, which is, in the really geeky way, their sales team as opposed to the programming team. But we hope it will be on BBC next year, hopefully kind of spring, summertime. We're meeting them on Tuesday to try and lock that down for everybody.